Welcome to PRSay. This is the Houston's chapter of Public Relations Society of America's podcast. We have our very own podcast here in Houston. And on the podcast, we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to meet some of our phenomenal members, get to know them a little bit better, and make sure that we are leveraging our professional reach so that we can grow in our profession and really help each other out. That's the whole purpose of PRSay. So I hope that you are tuning in. If you are listening on our podcast, make sure you hit subscribe. You can download those from any of your podcast platforms. And you can also watch us on Facebook or YouTube and drop us some comments because my guests and I do like to go back and connect with folks. So we're going to go ahead and bring on our guest today. We have the amazing Amanda Finwick joining us. Thank you so much for being on. How are you today?
Good morning, Veronica. Thanks for having me. I am great this morning. Good to see you.
Good. Well, Amanda, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about the organization that you represent, and then we'll kind of dig into some PRSay activities.
Sure. So as you mentioned, my name's Amanda Fenwick. My current role, I'm the Vice President for Marketing and Public Relations at San Jacinto College, one of 9 community colleges in the greater Houston region. We are a top 5 community college in the country. So as a PR person, I always got to put that plug out there for San Jac. But our office really does all the external relations pieces. So everything that you think falls under marketing and public relations, it does. Crisis comms, media relations, website, event planning, social media, design work, all of those things. I have a great team that surrounds me, and we tell the story. We're storytellers, as I think many of our friends in the public relations world are. And so my background actually is in sports. I have 2 degrees in sports broadcasting and sports administration. And I've worked in city government for the city of Houston. I've worked in higher ed and Rice in the athletics department there. So, but I've been in this space for over 20 years, never the same day twice. And I think that's one of the things I love so much about working in public relations.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I would absolutely agree. That's exactly how I feel. I feel like I have my day planned. I know what meetings I'm attending, and all of a sudden it gets completely derailed.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very, very real possibility for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, tell us about, your involvement in PRSay. I know you've had some leadership roles, and, for young PR pros or people who are new to our chapter, I really want them to get a better understanding of how our organization can help not only in their career, but just in their personal network and being able to just commiserate with other peers who know exactly what they're going through.
Sure. So I'm currently in my 2nd year on the PRSay Houston board, and right now I manage communications and social media for the chapter. Last year I chaired the Excalibur Awards, which I think we'll talk about here in a little bit. And then I've also held roles it was the foundation back then, but the scholarship arm of PRSay Houston. And so for me, PRSay Houston is it's a great connector because there's so many individuals from different areas of PR, right? There's the agency work. There's those of us that work in the education space, the industry space, the municipal space. And so it's just a great network. It's a way to connect with individuals that you might not connect with on a daily basis. It's a great hub of information. So the programs that we put out, I think we really try to make them relevant to what's happening, in our world or in our region today, and to really trying to put some practicality behind it, right? So a lot of times we want in our events and the things that we do, we want you to walk away with something tangible that you can take back to your team or to your space, your organization, your company, and put it into practice. Because what's the point of talking to somebody or going to an event, and then you walk away and you're like, maybe I should, that was an hour lost of my time or whatever. We don't want that. So we really want to be able to give people something that they can take back and make their team, make their work, make their company and their organization better. And so it's a lot of fun. So for those younger up and coming PR professionals, I would just say, get out there, get involved, meet people. It's a great space for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely ditto everything you said. And, the mentorship, the ability to connect with someone, because we do, right? I mean, my background was originally in finance, and then I moved into public healthcare, and then I moved into public ed. But in all those different spaces, it helps to know someone who's been there, and you can just pick up the phone and call. And so I think you brought up some really good points about why joining PRSA Houston and getting more involved is going to really help you grow in your career, because you don't know where you're going to end up.
Well, and you don't know who you're going to need and when, right? So, where San Jacinto College is located, we're in the heart of industry in Houston, and when something goes boom, I need to be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, what do I need to know to tell my people? And PRSA Houston has been a great conduit for that. I've met a lot of people that I may not have met otherwise. And so I have those connections now. So you're exactly right. You never know when you're going to need somebody or where you might, meet them further on in your career.
Yeah. No, that's a really great point. And, one of the other things I love about our organization, and you talked about it at the very beginning, was the ability to get recognized for the challenges and the obstacles and the great successes we've had. And that, for our chapter, is the Excalibur Awards. Tell us a little bit about that, because I feel like that's something that members might not have a lot of knowledge of.
Well, first of all, the gala is a whole ton of fun. We've had to scale it down a little bit the last couple of years because of COVID, but this year I think we're back in full swing and gala mode. So June 23rd, mark your calendars. I will put that plug in. But my team has been fortunate to be recognized by with an Excalibur Award the last couple of years for our annual report. But it's people are judging and critiquing your work, and they're your peers, right? And so I think there's a ton of value in that, because it's one thing for somebody who may or may not know a lot about what it is and what we do to say, oh yeah, that looks really good. But for somebody to go in and really take the time to read it and to evaluate it and to say, this is really, really good work, I think speaks volumes. And it's a great motivator also, to come back and, maybe you got a silver one year and it's like, okay, now I really want that gold, the next year. So I just think the fact that we use our own peers to evaluate our work and to be able to be recognized amongst our peers here in Houston is really valuable.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And you have to remember, we're a major market. So the work that you're doing is really up there with the best of the best. So it's an honor to even be able to get recognized at any level.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. A lot of organizations will, you'll submit your work by category, right? So we might submit work in higher ed, but for the Excalibur Awards, you're competing against, every other industry out there. So it really elevates your work and the team and your team and the work that they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll tell you, my team in particular, right before the pandemic, we were right up there. And when we didn't get the top one, we were disappointed in the fact that we didn't win the top, but we were really honored that we did come in and got to be recognized, because the campaign that beat us out was a NASA campaign, and we couldn't compete with what they were doing, right. Because it was one of those, I think it was like an anniversary type campaign. And so we were like, wow, that was amazing. But the fact that we came in right under them was fantastic. So we celebrated that win.
Yeah, absolutely. We celebrate our wins all the time too, because at the end of the day, there's a gold, a silver, and a bronze, and how many other, organizations or companies entered. So being one of the top is definitely an honor.
Yeah, no, that's great. Do you have any advice for members who are joining or coming in from other chapters about how to really leverage the organization to benefit their career and their path?
Yeah. We talked a little bit earlier about some of the events that we do. I would say get involved in those, whether it's a national PRSA webinar, whether it's something locally we're doing virtually, or we are trying to come back in person a little bit more this year. So just be there, be engaged with us. If you have an idea, reach out to a board member and say, hey, what do you think about X, Y, or Z? We're always looking for volunteers on our committees, especially, again, Excalibur coming up. They are looking for volunteers, as well as some of our other committees. We do scholarships for, college students who are just entering our business, and we have a scholarship committee that is always looking for volunteers as well. So there's a ton of opportunities to get involved, and for you and for your organization.
Yeah, that's a great plug. That's a great plug for the organization. And Amanda, I just appreciate everything you're doing in higher ed because it is absolutely so important as we prepare the next generation of communication leaders.
Thank you. Yeah, higher ed, near and dear to my heart. I spent most of my career there. My mom was a teacher for her whole career, so it holds a good place. And the things that our students do and become, to be able to just tell that story, they make it easy on us, right? We're just the messenger, so to speak. And so we're really proud of everything that San Jack has done, that our students do, and the role that we play in the community. So thank you for that.
Awesome. All right, Amanda, how can folks connect with you? Do you prefer LinkedIn, or what is your preferred method of connection?
Yeah, LinkedIn for sure, especially at a professional level. Twitter, I'm pretty active on Twitter. You might get some personal things. I love to cook, so you're going to get a lot of food pics if you follow me on Twitter. But yeah, Twitter and LinkedIn are two places I'd love to connect with folks on.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Amanda. I've enjoyed our conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Veronica. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, that wraps up this episode of PRSay, the Houston Public Relations Society of America, our podcast that we have to connect you with members. Again, if you are listening on the podcast, make sure you hit subscribe. If you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, drop us some comments because Amanda and I will definitely go back and connect with you. And make sure you follow Amanda on LinkedIn. And with that, we will wrap up this episode and we will see you soon.